It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is What Made the Cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And this portion of the program, The Cut, brought to you by Trajan Wealth, TRAJAN Wealth.com. That's Trajan Wealth for all your trusted local needs in retirement. Tim LaComb on the program here with us. Coach, how are you, man? It's been a minute.
It has, man. It's been quite a while, but I guess it is the season. Football's winding down, and basketball's about 25 games in, so it's a good time to kind of pick up where we left off.
But, of course, we crowned an NBA Cup champion, and so that was obviously something that was way on our minds going into that. Do you think that the Cup is landing – do you think the NBA Cup is landing with the fans and people are running with it a little bit, or is it still just one of those gimmicky things that Adam Silver's trying out and it not isn't? I don't know. Does it have the same effect? Do the players love it? I think winning $500,000 is pretty cool for everybody on the roster who wins it.
Yeah, it's funny. I had that conversation with a couple of people today, and my take on that is that I think it's a nice – 82 games is a long regular season, and not really ramp it up. Sly can probably speak to you play hard in the regular season, but nowhere near when, you lose, you're out type situation. So there's some urgency to it, and I think that's what makes it so great. I really enjoyed watching the games. It was fun to watch those teams compete, and definitely surprised me. I thought OKC would run away, but San Antonio was tough, and the Knicks ultimately tougher.
Yeah, I don't know if I could speak to 82-game seasons. That's a lot. We were just talking about it with hockey, right? Hockey, the physicality of hockey running 82
But they
games.
also do the same thing where they got to find, a place where they can get going in the season to kind of motivate themselves, a little bit extra.
Oh,
right?
yeah. You get to – I'm telling you, with in the pros, it was week, 11? I think we call it week 11 and week 12. That's the low period. Especially all the rookies were falling asleep in meetings and stuff. You're all giddy and excited around week 1 and 2, and then you're week 11, you're just out of there. But man, these Utah Jazz, they are. I don't know how to figure it. I feel like the team is better than they were last year. But 10-15 on the year already. They had a remarkable game against Dallas Mavericks the other night. What is your whole overall vibe of the team this year?
Well, I think some major steps have transpired. I think. I think there is a guy now in Keyonte George kind of emergence, and, it's a 25-game sample right now, but, I love the vibe nightly, and there's a consistency to that. He really kind of came into the season and flipped the script from, what can this league do for me? What can this team do for me to, what can I do for others? And, he made that pretty clear in the media day right out of the gate, and he's really played to that. I've been really impressed with, his ability to understand that really the details are, like Coach said, the game's won and lost in the margins, and I definitely think he's cleaned up margins. He's right now on I would think an all-star pace. If not this year, which I think probably if he keeps it up should happen, definitely an all-star type player. So that change is very immediate. The trajectory of what this team ultimately can be, not just this, not speaking of this year, but down the road. When you've got another really solid piece that you can throw in there and understand that they're here already, you don't have to go figure out how to get them. And they're giving you now all that development you've done. They're giving you a ton of ability to see that your decision was good, to go with them, to pick them. And so when that development happens and all those pieces start to get put together, it gets pretty fun. So I think that's been number one for me, is his emergence. I think his ability to, really kind of throw himself into this team. He's averaging over 7 assists right now, 23 points a game. It's been a crazy stretch the last few. But I think since December has started, this team has kind of flipped through another valley and have cleaned some things up and been really fun to watch.
Yeah, I actually, Coach Hardy actually just recently said, and I found it interesting, but he's like, we're now having to look at it a little different. We have to look at Keyonte a little differently as far as the projections and where this team's at. What exactly did he mean when he said that? He said something around the lines of we're having to look at Keyonte differently as far as how we're evaluating.
Yeah,
this team
their expectations have totally changed as a coaching staff. Yeah.
Yeah. What did he mean by that?
Yeah. Well, I think from what we've seen, and frankly, I think it's pretty public that his exit interview at the end of last year was one that he got told a lot of hard things, but he got told the truth. And I think this relationship that he and Will have bonded together through that, just saying, look, man, you look around you and look at the guys that aren't in the league that were in your draft class. And that can happen to you, if things don't change. And, quite frankly, the turnovers were too high. The decision-making wasn't great. The defensive effort and being plugged in on the defensive end wasn't, a strong suit, I didn't feel like. And, he'd have big nights, but his shooting percentages weren't what they needed to be. And so I think you put that all into a bag. And, there's a guy that's got to do a lot of work in the offseason. So I think everybody had high hopes that this is what you would see from Key. But until you see it in a 25-game span, you can't really plan on it, right? And so I think that's what Coach is referring to.
Well, I think one thing too, Tim, I mean, it's one thing to hear that from your coaches because I guarantee coaches across the league are having these hard conversations with a lot of guys, and there are a lot of guys who don't respond and their time in the league dries up. And to be able to not just improve on the things that they asked you to improve on, but, I mean, it's beyond exceeding the expectations I think that even the fans had. And I think that part of what's been interesting to me is watching how he and Lowry work together. Now, Lowry's out tonight, but I think Lowry's having a great year as well, and I think part of that comes with the fact that Keyonte's having such a great year.
Yeah, there was an assertiveness and an intentionality, I think, on both those guys' parts. You can remember when Keyonte went out to Finland. And then obviously Keontae's ability to connect with the other guys on the team, his storied trip to Dallas with a bunch of guys to work out and have some fun in his hometown. I think that is really, that feeling is what's different about this Jazz team. They're second in the NBA in assists this year. And honestly, up until the start of December, they have not shot the ball crazy well. But since December, the three-point shot's starting to fall more from a 34% percentage clip to a 38.5% clip since December 1st. So really, so many things can get cleaned up if you just make shots. You make shots and the other team can't rebound and run back at you. I mean, there's so many elements. And so I feel like they've really shot the ball better, since that point. And Keontae's been huge on that. I think his decision-making, like I said, and then just like that cohesion, that chemistry you speak of, when your best players are out there and they're really unified like Key and Lowry are, it's easy for guys to fill. For guys to fill in. It's when your best players are lazy, and they don't really want the best. That's a real struggle because guys in their roles understand what their role is, but do they really want to challenge those guys and run past them? There's a lot of those inner workings. So to have your best players aligned, that's awesome.
As I mentioned, the groin injury that Larry Markkinen, I don't think it's a super serious one. They're just kind of monitoring, making sure that it can kind of get right before he gets back onto the court. But he mentioned the development of Kyle Filipowski. And what have you seen out of Flip this year that has been he had a really great summer. He had an awesome summer league. Great. That doesn't necessarily translate into you being a great player yet. He still has a long way to go. What are they asking of him now? Because obviously he's going into these games. There's no Walker Kessler. He's asked to stretch himself a little bit differently on these nights. And if Nurk is out, then he has to do it even more. What's Flip been doing that you've been impressed by this year so far?
Just about everything, honestly. I think you hit it on the head. He's been throwing a lot of different curveballs and challenges. There's nights where, he and Kevin Love have been the last line of defense at 5 for the night. And but it's worked out because guys have worked together through it. They've actually won games in that situation. I think Flip is an incredible hit for the Jazz, as a second rounder. Those contracts are a little different, and I think the way he's playing certainly exceeds that. So you got to feel good about that. I think his summer league really gave him so much confidence, and albeit against guys that aren't necessarily NBA guys. I said from day one of the reasons that fits so well with the Jazz is he replicates something that we saw working, and that's what Kelly Olynyk was able to do. Very effective to just plug and play. And you notice wherever Kelly goes, he finds the rotation because he can catch it, he can think, he can put it on the floor for a couple of bounces. He's got a move and a counter move, and he's actually got a perimeter shot.
Mm-hmm.
So you plug those guys into most systems, and they're gonna flourish. So I think that's what the Jazz saw in Kyle when they drafted him. They got a steal, in my mind, and what he's added this year to all that is, and I think Lowry said it best. Lowry was interviewed after the last game and talk about Flip, and he said he's making grown man plays now. There's a period where you come into this league and you're just kind of big boyed, and you got to figure it out from a scheme and technique standpoint, but also just from a strength standpoint. So I think Kyle's done a great job just getting himself stronger too.
Well, and you brought that up about guys who are probably having some pretty frank discussions. I feel like Cody Williams was probably one of those guys. His minutes have been falling off. Taylor Hendricks has been, to me, one of those guys, and maybe it's because he's still coming back fully, maybe. Those are two different guys on different trajectories, obviously. But what have you seen out of Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams' development? Cody especially, everybody's waiting for that corner to get turned, and I don't think it helps that, from the patient standpoint for fans when they see that Key's doing so well and they're waiting for Cody Williams to turn that. What does he need to do to be able to turn that corner?
Just continue to get reps and to continue, like this G League stuff's been so good for him. And, the other night against Dallas, he came in and scored 9 consecutive points.
Right.
In the guts of a game, a game that teams were competing hard. There were no fives on the floor, so it made the box score look a little skewed. But there just wasn't a ton of rim protection on the night, which then, you got open guys from 3. You got guys guarding the best they can, but if the rim's at play all night long, you're going to get stuff, and I think that's why you saw the score go where it went. But Cody was instrumental, and it's been maybe never that I've said that, So that's a step forward, and you just have to prepare for those steps, then you have to execute them, and then you get your next step. And it's hard for a fan, but I would just simply say go back and look at the roster at the end of the Donovan Mitchell era and look that it was so, you had Donovan's money and you had Rudy's money. And then you had a bunch of guys. I mean, Rudy Gay was getting minutes on that team. So you just look now and you say, not only if Key really has emerged an all-star and Lowry's one, and Walker Kessler, in my mind, is an elite 5, in this league on the rise, the guy that runs the floor like a gazelle, does what I just talked about. He can handle the ball a little bit. He can, play the handoff game. He's a major threat vertically rolling to the rim, and he can finish. He definitely finishes most everything. He's creative around the rim, and then he's a certified, big time shot blocker. So you've got those guys. You've got a guy in Ace who's still in the oven, right?
Yep.
We talk about different stages, but Ace is in the oven. But man, don't you love the thought of a maybe year 2.5 Ace Bailey alongside those guys? And then what do you get out of this year's draft? I mean, obviously that's the TBD. But I think this is the last year we're going to be talking about the lottery around here. I really do. I've been watching this since they tore it down from the studs. And to me, not only those guys I talk about, but then the guys that need to come in and accept a role, which is already kind of being defined. You talk about what Flip does, what Taylor does, what Cody does. They come in, they play their guts out for a period of time for different reasons. Cody's going to go in there with his length. He's in there at the end of the game and guarded, in key possessions with his length. And so different guys, but the key of that is they're acclimating to those roles all the while the stars are getting better. I think some great things are happening here quietly. I think there's a lot of critics, but people that kind of sit and watch it night after night, you're definitely seeing improvement.
Well, I just think we need more viral moments of Will Hardy cussing people out. And, I think that's...
You don't need the viral moments. You know he's doing it. Everybody else already knew that he did it. If you've ever been to a game, he gets fired up. Man.
I'm not doing this every night. I love that. That was awesome.
What's neat is, you played for Scally and Whittingham. They would never use such language.
Oh, are you kidding me?
I'm just
Never.
You go down to
Never.
BYU.
I mean,
you go down to
not
BYU,
even
you'll
in the
catch that.
Those
Yeah,
guys.
you go down to BYU, you're going to catch those strays too.
I left in 2019, so I think they're clear of that now.
That's good. No, you know what? That's right. They've improved. They don't get that wild. But whatever. The players are saying it on national TV, Tim. That's what's going on.
It's a little different BYU now.
It's crazy.
Nowadays.
So what about tonight's game against the Lakers and how they approach that and this crazy Western Conference, right? We're talking about the Northwest standings and that whole conference with OKC and Minnesota and all the different teams in that Northwest Conference. How does the Jazz keep up in the Western Conference as a whole? You got the Lakers coming in tonight, and how does that game look?
Game tonight, if I remember right, you're a Laker guy, aren't you, Sly?
What'd you say?
Aren't you a Laker
You're
fan?
a Laker guy.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I thought
He's
so.
asking, and then he's doing some recon. Yeah.
I'm just doing how are your thoughts on the game tonight, and then I'll get my impressions.
Yeah. So no. I think obviously I think the development for the Lakers this year has been Austin Reeves doing what he's doing. He's 27 a game,
right?
Alongside Luka, that's 34, and there are two guys in the league that really just play with the game on a string. I think Shea benefits from having like-minded guys around him, and I think their force is different. But you play LA or you play Denver, and the game's on a string for one guy in both of those games, and it's Doncic, and obviously it's Jokic. But very similar approach, and so you got to contain him. You can't foul him. It's hard because he knows all the tricks and uses them all to his advantage. I was talking to a former college coach on the phone today, and he had happened to catch the Lakers in Dallas in LA a couple of weeks ago. And he just said, it's the first time I've seen Luka live. And he said, I just can't believe, the term he used was his gravity, and how the game really, if spacing is everything, he just creates so much space for himself, but so much for his teammates, and then sees whatever's going on. Mm-hmm. So I guess, first of all, you got to hope he had a bad chicken dinner prior to the game. That's going to help. Because he's so great at all that.
Dinner?
Yeah, exactly. Somebody delivered that flawed pizza. But no, I think you got to make life as difficult as you can for him.
Right.
Austin Reeves now the second option, and now and LeBron. The comment my buddy made to me is like, you didn't even know LeBron was out there.
Right.
I mean, that's how far that's gone. So pretty crazy. So I think the Jazz just need to focus on themselves tonight, keep getting better. They definitely need to figure out a way to handle Luka, but then I think there's a lot. The Lakers are not great defensively either.
No.
In the bottom, 5 defensively in the league. So Will Hardy's great at exposing their weaknesses, so I think they'll do a really good job of making LeBron, Luka, Austin guard in space, and that'll be kind of how the Jazz choose to attack.
Yeah, they're giving up a lot of points, but this pace, they're almost to 120 a game, Tim, which would be a record for that's where we've gotten in the NBA, by the way, is the Jazz scoring almost 120 a night on average across the season so far. It's been fun to watch, though. I'll tell you, these are any of the games I've gone to. They've been overtime games. They've been games that have gone to 140 in regulation. I love this kind of stuff. So we're gonna be able to hear from you and Jake Scott, of course, coming up in about 35 minutes here as the pregame's gonna get started off here. So, Coach, thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. We know that it's extra work for you, but we really do love it. So, thanks for being with us, man.
Oh, hey, talking to friends about sports, that's no work, my guy. It's all good.
There you go.
We're just talking.
Thanks, Coach. We'll talk to you again, man.
See y'all.
There you
Bye-bye.
go.